Welcome to Mosaic Yoga, everybody. So thrilled to have you all here. Let's find our way to a sitting position on our yoga mat. As we start our practice today, we're going to take a moment and just do a little bit of breathing exercises to kind of get the energy to flow. And from there, then we'll get into a full spectrum yoga class. What I mean by full spectrum is we're going to do some breathing poses. And of course, we have our asana or yoga poses that are connected with our mindfulness as well as our breathing, but through the full genre of poses. So we're going to do some standing poses, some balance poses, a little bit of arm balances, some stretching, some twists, some hip openers. We're going to do the full thing. And as always, the opportunity is on you to kind of figure out if you want to take it a little bit further, a little bit back off a little bit. And hopefully I'll give plenty of information that gives you the wherewithal to be able to do that. So as we start our practice, we're going to do a form of pranayama, and prana means life force energy. Prana is what makes atoms spin. It's what makes galaxies spin. It's what creates our thoughts, right? So prana is in everything, and we have a really direct connection to our prana through simple breathing techniques. So I want to do a balancing breath to start, and then from there, that'll give us a perfect place to move into our poses, and then from there, we'll do even a little bit of meditation when we get done. And even though I'm on my bike today, I brought the clarinet. So we're going to have a little bit of serenading at the end, which will feel hopefully really nice, okay? So before you even get in with the breathing stuff, set your thumb and first finger together, palms perhaps open on your knees. You can also just put your palms down on your knees. Take a moment and arrive mentally by just taking a couple deep breaths in and out through the nostrils. Maybe even a sigh once or twice out the mouth. And then get into ujjayi breath or whisper breath. Slow, deep breaths in and out through the nostrils. Now this in and of itself is a great form of pranayama. I would say the quintessential breath work practice. It's going to be what leads us through all of our yoga postures. You can do it anytime when you're feeling like you need to chillax a little bit, or you feel like you need to raise your energy just a little bit. It's really ubiquitous in its application. If you want to join me, let's chant Om once. You're also welcome to just listen if you prefer. So if you want to join me, palms together with your hands at your heart. Take an inhale. We're going to do a balancing breath practice, pranayama practice. So thumb and first finger together, palms down. This is called samavriti, or same breath. And essentially we're going to breathe in for 5 counts. We're going to hold that for 5 counts, breathe out for 5 counts, and hold that for 5 counts. We'll do that a couple rounds, and then we'll move into 6, and then we'll move into 7. But each time, each inhale, each hold, each exhale, each hold is going to be the same, okay? So start your ujjayi breath going. And as you're sitting here breathing, try to sit upright as possible while also feeling relaxed. We're going to have this perfect balance between sturdiness and ease. So let's breathe out here so that we're on the same page. And breathe in for 5 counts. So inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath and relax. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in for 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 rounds of 7. So inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Last round, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Go back to Ujjayi breath, whatever rhythm feels good and natural for you. You'll notice a natural slight pause at the top and a natural slight pause at the bottom, but we're not doing any work to try to hold our breath. And once you feel kind of stabilized, then with your hands on your knees, bend your elbows a little bit and arch your back a little as you inhale. Pull your shoulder blades together, lift your chin. Exhaling, roll your shoulders forward and round your back. Drop your chin down a little bit. Inhale again as you open up your heart. Lift your chin, lift your chest. Exhale, round your back. Roll your shoulders forward, etc. Back and forth a few times like this. Just starting to enter into that discovery part of our practice where we're learning exactly what our body might be up for today, or maybe any limitations. Start to roll around through your neck if that feels good. You can kind of improvise here and kind of move your trunk in tandem with your neck a couple times around the opposite direction. Now, let's lower down to a lying down on your back position. We're going to do a dynamic bridge pose. So bend your knees, your heels are right in line with your sitting bones. Walk your shoulder blades together a little bit. And then with an exhale, press your feet down to the floor and lift your hips slowly up into bridge. And as you inhale, lower slowly back down to the floor. Exhale, a gentle lift rolls up one vertebra at a time. And as you inhale, you roll back down one vertebra at a time. And as you're lifting and lowering, we're not only articulating each one of the vertebrae, but then we're also putting a little bit of fire, a little bit of this prana, this life force energy, into glutes and hamstrings and the long muscles along the spine, etc. Okay. The next time you lift your hips up into bridge pose, walk your shoulder blades together a little more, and bend your elbows at right angles. Make fists or kind of like, point your fingers toward the ceiling, doesn't matter. But pull your triceps actively down into the floor and lift your chin slightly toward the ceiling, to avoid asphyxiation. Balls of the feet press down, hips lift up in the air. And then lower down slowly, vertebra by vertebra, back to the floor. And as you do so, move into happy baby pose. Bring your thighs wide, open up the soles of the feet toward the ceiling, kind of draw your shoulder blades down to the floor. Now release your hands, bring your knees together, and with your knees together, make big circles in the air with your knees. If this is really sensitive on your lower back, maybe you've got an SI issue or sciatica you're working with, you might choose to hold on to your knees and make a little bit more supportive circles. Inhaling as the knees move out and away, exhaling as your knees move in toward you. My back loves this. It just starts to move and pop in all the great ways. And speaking of energy, as my spine kind of moves, I get this great kind of energy hit that moves up through my body like I'm getting a little caffeine rush or something, because your spine is sort of like the CPU of the energy system. And so as the energy starts to flow better because the alignment is good, then you know, it's kind of sensitive to how that works. Here's what you can do. You're going to roll over to your left side, and back by popular demand, you're going to bring your right hand behind you and place your palm outward so the top of the hand, dorsal side of the hand, is kind of resting between your shoulder blades. Be careful with this, but you're going to gently lower back down onto your back so your hand is sort of pinned underneath your spine. And I kind of like my elbow pointing down toward my hip bone for this nice shoulder opener. If that's kind of intense, then I would suggest to lean back over to your left side and rest your hand kind of in your lower back rather than mid or upper back. Either way, we still have our deep Ujjayi breath moving. We're still cultivating that flow of prana all the way through. Now roll back over to your left side. Remove your right arm, and let's do a full 180 over to the other side. So from your right side, bring your left hand back behind you. Place palm side down to the mat, dorsal side up between your shoulder blades. Kind of point your elbow toward your hip bones or toward your feet, and then just kind of rest on your back as you open up your shoulders. Hug lower back gently down into the floor. Really nice way to open up the shoulders, and does some wonderful things for the spine. Again, putting us into this great sort of setup for energy to flow in our practice today. Now when this side feels balanced with the other, lean over to your right side again like in a fetal position and come up to a hands and knees pose. And then in hands and knees pose, let's begin to move into a cat-cow position. So you're going to rest your shoulders pretty much right over your wrists, hips more or less over knees, and with an exhale, begin to round your spine, press your hands into the floor, spread your shoulder blades away from each other. Then as you inhale, do the opposite, lean your sternum forward, kind of bring your collarbones up between your shoulders. As you exhale again, round your spine. And then inhale, lean it forward again. I got to adjust my camera angle because inevitably when Netflix wants to buy all these from me, they're going to want a really good angle here. So, when Scorsese's got me on the line, you filming in 4K over there? I hope you are. Next time as you exhale, lift into downward facing dog position. Lift your hips up in the air and start to pedal your knees. Right heel kind of draws toward the floor, then left heel draws toward the floor. Now here's one of my favorite stretches ever. If you kind of bring your feet together, point knees and toes to the right, pull your right hip back and kind of glue your right palm to the floor. You get this great stretch down the right side of the body, through the ribs, the lats. These are the intercostal muscles, the big latissimus dorsi muscle. And then switch sides, toes and knees point to the left. And then it's really like your hip bone pulling back that is sort of the magic to make this happen, to get that nice side stretch moving all the way through. Good, and then neutralize this, bring it back to normal. Look forward and step your left foot forward between hands. With your fingertips framing your left foot, just inhale and look forward. And then exhale, straighten up your left leg a little, round your back. Inhale, bend your front knee again and look forward. And then exhale and straighten it out. Now, we're taking a pose, we're taking two poses, and we're toggling back and forth between them, connecting them with your breath. And this process is called vinyasa krama. And what it does is sort of primes the pump for the energy to flow, particularly through these particular muscles, namely quads, hamstrings, shins, calves, not to mention what's going on through the spine. Okay, so we're kind of doing the homework, setting up the foundation for energy to really flow. Drop your right knee now. On your next inhale, drop your right knee all the way to the mat. You can flip your mat over for a little bit of cushion. And then as you lean forward, just find a little stretch. The difference between doing a yoga practice and really anything, when you're in flow, when the energy's flowing, versus just kind of muscling your way through it, one feels like work, and the other one just feels like you're in the current of something that's carrying you, you know? So the ways that you block the flow is by overexertion or underexertion. So you got to find that sweet spot. Palms to the floor, step back into down dog. And if you want to, you can roll through an optional vinyasa. We'll get plenty of these in, but if you're, really eager to get a little bit of chaturanga in the mix, be my guest. Looking forward, inhale, step right foot up between your hands. Look forward. Make sure that your right knee is not bent more than a right angle. And then exhale, straighten up your right leg for a little bit of a stretch, nothing huge. Inhale, looking forward. And exhale, straightening it out. Inhale, looking forward. And exhale, straighten it out. Now we're still kind of warming up, right? We're still kind of in this discovery stage of our practice. So we're not in it to win it. We're not going to do the deepest stretch ever. We're just getting the energy to flow. It'd be more valuable to take a lighter stretch and keep it in line with your breath than to just crank it in to some intense thing. Okay, so last time, inhale. This time drop your left knee all the way down to the mat. Lean forward a little bit. Find a little stretch in the left groin. And with your fingertips on the floor, curl your left toes under if they're not already. Take a big step forward so that lefty comes forward to meet the right. Inhale as your arms reach forward and up, kind of sweep upward toward the sky with a little micro back bend before bringing your arms parallel to the floor and to your heart. And let's slow jam our way through some classic sun salutations. So inhale, back, forward and up again. On an exhale, dive forward nice and slowly. Fingertips to the floor, step your right leg back into a kneeling lunge position. And we'll take a few moments here to take a couple deep breaths here in kneeling lunge. Plant your palms, slide feet together in down dog position. Lift your heels up off the ground, tuck your tail and roll forward into plank. Looking kind of forward, drop knees to the floor, chest and chin to the floor before rolling your shoulders back into cobra pose on your way back into a downward facing dog pose. Look up to hands, step your left foot forward between your hands. Drop your right knee back to the mat. So essentially we just reverse what we came through. Lean into lefty as your right foot steps all the way forward, and then inhale, sweep your arms forward and up to the sky with a little arch before bringing your arms parallel and back to the heart. So left side, forward and up, inhale. Dive forward on your exhale. Step your left leg back into a kneeling lunge position. Couple of breaths here. And as you plant your palms to the mat, slide back into downward facing dog pose. Raise your heels high, draw your tailbone long as you roll into plank. Inhale, and then exhale, knees, chest, and chin to the mat. Cobra pose, breathing in, and down dog, exhale. Looking forward to hands. Inhale as you step your right foot forward. Drop left knee to the mat. And then exhale, take a big step as your left foot comes forward to meet your right. And then inhale, reach your arms forward and up to the sky before exhaling, hands back to heart. Okay, one breath per movement. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, dive forward. Right leg steps back to kneeling lunge. Inhale. Left knee goes back to three-legged downward facing dog pose. Roll into plank pose. I said three-legged down dog. I don't know why I said that, but thank you for doing it anyway. Knees, chest, chin, exhale. Cobra pose, inhale. And then downward facing dog, exhale. Step your left foot forward to hands. Right knee touches the mat. Take a big step forward so right foot comes forward to meet the left foot. Very good. Nice. Stand all the way up. Inhale, reach to the sky. And then exhale, bring your hands parallel and back to the heart. Left side, so forward and up on the inhale. Take it forward on your exhale. Now leave with the left this time, so lefty goes back. Right foot goes back to regular down dog, feet together. Inhale, roll to plank position. Knees, chest, chin on your exhale. Very good, everyone. Cobra, inhale. Use your shoulders to pull you back up out of your chest. Good. And then down dog again on the exhale. Bringing it home, step your right foot forward. Inhale. Good. Lefty follows on the exhale. That's it, Karen. Good. Stand all the way up. Breathe in. And then hands back to heart. Very nice. Now move into a chair pose. Inhale. And do the exhale. Take your breath out the mouth like this. Keep going. It's super cleansing for one, but it's also fire inducing. And maybe that's one of the reasons why it's cleansing. It gets this fire moving that helps digest undigested energy or ideas or, whatever you need to kind of process through, right? This helps get rid of that. So when you feel ready to, maybe the next time or two, end up in a standing forward fold, Uttanasana, and just relax with a couple of deep breaths. Let your head be heavy. Enjoy a little hamstring stretch here. Round your spine consciously, weighting equally into the balls of your feet as well as your heels. So next inhale, come up halfway to a flat spine. Draw your shoulder blades together. Step back either straight to down dog or move through your vinyasa. That is to say, chaturanga, exhale. Cobra or up dog, inhale. And then we all meet back in downward facing dog. So chaturangas are optional. Raise your right leg in the air on an inhale. Step your right foot forward between hands, exhale, and open up into a warrior two position. So the right arm forward, left arm back. Quick anatomy check is your knee is over your ankle. Your trunk is more or less up and right, upright, straight. And then arms are wide. So with open rib cage here, we're going to do a couple of rounds of Kapalabhati. So we're going to do this while holding this pose. And it really gets the energy to really move, all right? So let's do this. I'm breathing out and in the nostrils only, but just kind of forcefully giving these exhales out the nostrils. Now keep going. Bend your front knee even deeper. When you feel like you've had kind of a good run with this pose, we're going to kind of ease our way into a triangle pose and enjoy a couple rounds of deep Ujjayi breath while holding a triangle pose. Okay, so it's like we got all the energy primed to get into one of my favorite poses ever and just like bliss out. Take those deep inhales, those long exhales. Feel that perfectly placed stretch. Not too much, not too little. Adjust your position, which sometimes means just looking down to the floor rather than looking up, right? Resting hand to hip. Another cool way to do this pose is to wrap your left hand behind you and grab hold of the inside of your right thigh with your left arm, or just place your left palm on your sacrum. Go 3 more breaths in triangle pose. Yeah, good. Nice, Lisa. Perfect, Meg. Yeah. Now you're counting your breaths, and on your third breath, you're going to place your both hands back to the floor, step back to downward facing dog pose, and either hang out in down dog or move through your vinyasa. As you breathe in, raise your left leg in the air, three-legged dog. Step lefty forward between your hands on the exhale, and then open back into warrior two on this side. Good. A little lift in the pubic bone, tailbone's nice and long, and then quick anatomy check to make sure everything's where you think it should be before we get into a couple rounds of this Kapalabhati, this kind of spurt exhale at the nostrils. And you're going to keep doing this for as long as you're loving it. Before it gets to be too much, then you're going to resolve into a triangle pose. Okay, so do this for as long as the fire feels good, and then hand to shin, arm to the sky. Right? It's like a sauna. You know, heat feels good until it doesn't anymore, and then you're ready to come out. Right? So after the heat stops getting, when it starts getting to you, then come out. Take a deep breath in triangle pose. Long exhale. Make your adjustments as you need to feel good, right? So if that might mean looking up, looking down, wrapping your right hand behind you, it's excellent. Now, as you're hanging out in this pose, things are going to shift. And after a couple of breaths, you're going to realize, oh yeah, I want to go a little deeper into this pose. Or, I'm a little bit too deep, I'm going to back off the pose a little bit, right? So the pose is this organic, it's this living thing, it's going to be changing moment by moment, breath by breath. Okay, so maybe 2 or 3 more breaths. Make sure you emphasize the inside ball of the foot pressing the floor down to the mat, so the big ball of the ball of the foot near the big toe. After those 3 breaths, make your way back to down dog. You get to choose whether that's through a vinyasa or not. On an inhale, raise your right leg in the air again. With an exhale, place your right foot toward your right thumb, up between your hands. Keep your left heel high and raise your arms toward the sky. That's good, Meg. Keep your arms, reach them to the sky to crescent lunge position. And as a dynamic version of this kind of series, we're going to bend the elbows on the exhale, reach your arms back to the sky. Inhale, bend your front knee a little deeper. Then straighten your front leg, keep your heel high, just drop your arms to your side. It's kind of a little chill out. Inhale, reach back into crescent lunge. Exhale, bend your elbows. Inhale, reach back up, good, knee right over ankle, and then exhale, straighten it out. Okay. Now keep doing this. Again, we're doing this vinyasa krama business, this kind of 1 breath per movement, going through a short sequence of poses to really get the energy to flow through shoulders, through chest, through quads, through hamstrings, right? To get the breath to be really moving here. And the next time you find yourself in this elbows bent version, we're going to hold this pose for a couple of breaths. Now, if you're here and nothing's ever felt so amazing, then that's the ticket to stay right there. If you want to take it a little deeper, put your hands to your heart, lean forward, and in slow motion, prop your way into this like hands to heart version or elbows bent at right angles version of Warrior 3. Be mindful of your left butt cheek active and keeping your left leg high and strong up in the air. Yeah, now you're going to slow motion make your way back into crescent lunge. So slowly bring that foot back to the floor, arms to the sky. Straighten up your front leg some and take it forward now into Parsvottanasana. So I'll usually step my back foot forward a couple of inches so that my left heel can now come all the way to the floor. Point your left toes forward. So that means an inward rotation. Perfect, Karen. Inward rotation of your left thigh. Good, Lisa. Exactly, Meg. And Meg, you might even turn your left toes a little bit more forward so your heel points back, as long as that's okay on your knee. Yeah. Deep breath in, receive the posture. As you exhale, contract Uddiyana Bandha, your lower abdominal muscular contraction. Fold over your abdominals. Inhale, your chest kind of leans forward just an inch. And then as you exhale, you round your spine even more. These are small actions, but this is moving in line with your breath. Yeah. Small little organic adjustments, breath by breath into the thing. There's no such thing as a static pose. I guess there's one, that's Shavasana, and I'm talking like true Shavasana. Like there's no more life left in that body, right? That's the only static pose. But other than that, everything is truly, truly dynamic. Keep your left hand where it is on the floor. Put your right hand to your hip as you pull your right shoulder back. Lean your sternum forward as if your breastbone, sternum, we're trying to lean forward past the big toe, and either keep that there or raise your right arm toward the sky into twisted triangle pose. Now make sure you keep your left heel grounded to the floor. Perfect. And that might mean stepping your foot forward. Also, as you're holding this pose, do it in a way where your knees aren't locking out. Right? That's another energy blocker to lock out your joints. That's it. Good, Lisa. Good. Nice, Karen. Hands to the floor on the exhale. Step it back to down dog and move through a vinyasa if that's your jam, or go straight. You just hang out in down dog. Lefty lifts on the inhale. Now we got the time, so bend your right knee a little. Use that as the spring to step your left foot forward between your hands. Very good. Yeah, nice, Mac. Good. So inhale, reach your arms to the sky, crescent lunge. Exhale, bend your elbows, right angles. Inhale, back, crescent lunge. Bend your front knee a little deeper. And exhale, straighten up your front leg with your hands to your side. Just a little relax. Inhale, bend your front knee, reach. Exhale, bend elbows. Inhale, reach back up. Very good. Straighten it out for a little relaxation. Good. Inhale. Exhale. Okay. Inhale. Straighten it out. And inhale. Exhale. Hold this pose for a few breaths. Now plant your palms together at your heart as you lean forward, and in slow motion, pick up your back heel as you balance in Warrior 3 pose. I'm going to encourage you to keep your right hip square with your left. It's going to want to lift to keep your balance, so use a little bit more core strength and a little bend in your standing leg. Think right butt cheek. That's going to keep your right leg strong. Now slow motion, open back into crescent lunge position. Very good. Straighten up your front leg. Now step your back foot forward some. Root your heel down to the floor. Toes are more or less pointing forward in advance. And then fold forward into Parsvottanasana. Pyramid pose. Forward fold. Now your right hip's going to want to lift higher than your left. It's going to want to try to make short work of this and make your trunk turn to make this thing happen. Instead, step your right foot to the right a little bit more, Lisa, and just a little bit more, perfect, and Karen, just a little bit more, but you're perfect. And then the toes point forward, good, and then drop your right hip some and lift your left hip some. Good, deep breath, unlock your knees. Even if that means there's a marked bend in the knees, that'd be better than locking it out. Now your right hand could be on the floor, your right hand could be on your shin, your right hand could even be on the outside of left pinky toe, but you're going to put your left hand up to your hip. Now before you do a massive twist, lean your sternum forward, root your right heel more down into the floor, and then finally raise your left arm to the sky back into twisted triangle pose. Good, that's it. Nice, Meg. Lisa, really good. Good. Keep your right heel grounded. That's a solid ground. Important point. Finally, both hands come to the floor. Take it back to downward facing dog pose in any variation you want, whether that's through a vinyasa or not. Give yourself 3 or 4 breaths in down dog and then find a resting pose. Your resting pose could be child's pose. Your resting pose could stay in down dog. Right? Your resting pose could be a cat-cow, whatever. Do a little check-in and feel how your energy's doing, feel how your prana's doing. Yeah, good. Ease your way out of this thing, back into downward facing dog. Resume your Ujjayi breath if you haven't already. And with this little check-in, you want to feel if or what the changes have been since we started our practice, 35 minutes ago. Take a big breath in. Bend your knees as you look forward to hands, and then walk, hop, or step feet forward to hands. Come to a nice long flat spine as you breathe in again. Fold forward on your exhale and stand all the way up, reaching toward the sky. Big breath. Hands back to heart. Now, as you hold this pose, find a spot directly in front of you, like on the wall or slightly down on the floor. You got this quality of being both upright in your trunk, tall and kind of broad-chested, sort of like a soldier, but then relaxed with your shoulders down, hands to heart. Feel the four corners of each foot rooting to the floor. And with this, bend your knees so that your hips stay right over your ankles, arms open up like wings. Standing on your left foot, cross your right leg up and over your left into eagle pose. Maybe even tuck your toes around your calf. And then bring your right arm on bottom as you wrap elbows, and either hold onto your shoulders, option 1, or wrap your forearms, option 2, into Garudasana, eagle pose. Find your core strength, Uddiyana Bandha, not only to hold you here, but also it keeps your balance kind of strong in this pose. Now, unwind your eagle, grab hold of this right leg, put it up on the inside of your left thigh, or at least on the inside of left calf. Hands either come back to heart for a Vrikshasana or tree pose, or reach your arms to the sky for this version of the posture. I keep my standing leg just a little teeny bit bent so I can negotiate a little bit better. And then with hands back to heart, float your leg out in front for a hot second before bringing it back down to the floor. Good. Pick up your standing leg, just shake that out a little bit. As you come back to Ujjayi breath, open your arms like wings, bend your knees some. Standing on your right leg, pick your left thigh up and over, wrap it around, perhaps the toe tucks around the calf, doesn't need to, but if that works, great. Cross your elbows. The higher you cross your elbows, the more you'll be able to wrap your forearms, if that's in the cards for you, or hold onto your shoulders. If this is balanced, unwind, pick up your left foot, put it on the inside of right thigh. And again, either hands to heart or arms to the ceiling in Vrikshasana, tree pose. Leg goes forward, back down to the floor. Now bring your feet to be about hip bone distance apart and drop your arms with a sigh. Arms up. Especially when we're doing like standing balances and the whole game shifts a little bit, we hold a little bit of tension, and so these exhales out the mouth. This is a nice tension release. So I want to move into a pose, Mulasana, squat pose like this, which might double as the platform to move into an arm balance if we want. So I can take a high version of this, which is easier for the knees, right? Or from squat pose, this is a great hip opener, lower back stretch. We've kind of been working on this pose a little bit. If you want to go through crow pose, Bakasana, put your hands about as wide as your shoulders and slightly turn your palms out. You're going to grip your fingertips. You're going to look kind of forward as you prop your hips up. Squeeze knees into triceps. And then one or both toes come up off the floor. And you sort of perch onto your triceps, looking forward. Try the radical idea of also breathing in the posture. Good. Nice. Karen, perfect. Good, Lisa. That's it. Good. It's very graceful. It's very graceful. No yogis were harmed in the making of this production. Straighten your legs, find in a forward fold position. Now watch me do this once. I'm in a squat pose. I find my base. I lift my hips up. Even though I've done this pose hundreds and hundreds of times, I come forward onto my tiptoes, squeeze in, find the muscular center, that's inner thighs and abdominals, then I just tip forward enough to find the balance. This is a teeter-totter. Touch the toes looking forward. This is all inner thighs and abdominals. Okay? Come down whenever. Yeah, that's it. That's totally it. Good, Karen. Nailed it. That's it. Yeah, excellent, Lisa. That's it. And then touch your big toes together. And I like that you're all looking forward slightly in the pose. That helps the balance incredibly. That's it, Meg. Perfect. Good. And then when you go home, your homework is to set up some couch cushions in front of you, right? Or do this on the edge of the hot tub so that if you go forward, what's the worst that could happen? Maybe you drown because you're too drunk. That precipitated the do the crow on the edge of the hot tub to begin with. Okay. All right, back to the asphyxiation conversation. All right, let's come up to our standing. Actually, we're already to hands and knees pose. Let's come down. Roll around through your wrists a little bit. I like this kneeling pose. Be careful with this, right? What I really want to do is wrist stuff. So if you want to be seated, that'd be better. But I like this Vrajasana thing, which is just a nice stretch for the shins, okay? Maybe even the quads. And if it's okay for you, you might even bring the knees wide and start to bring your hips down between your heels. This is called hero's pose, right? But then what I really want to do is just start to move through the wrists a little bit, right? So you're just going to kind of roll the wrists, move around in one direction, then switch and go the opposite direction. Awesome for people who work on keyboards all day, writers, editors, And then lean forward to hands and knees, but with your fingers pointing toward your knees. Bend your elbows slightly so they're not hyperextended. And lean back your hips toward your heels. At the same time, you're gripping your fingertips into the floor. Good. Release this thing. Shake out your hands a little bit. Come to a seated position. As we do a little bit of core strengthening, let's move into Navasana, so boat pose. Hold the backs of your legs, roll your shoulders back as you draw your shoulder blades in toward each other. Kind of the sternum lifts up, but then see if you can consciously almost round lower back, so your lower abdominals are consciously pulling in. Hold that, and that's your pose, or you're going to bring one or both feet up off the floor. Again, you can even keep your toes to the floor if you want. So let's say this is version 1. Let's say this is version 2. This is version 3. And that's version 4. So it just depends on, where you want to hold this. We've got about 5 or 6 breaths. At the end of about 5 breaths, bring your hands behind you, roll your shoulders back. So this is Purvottanasana, meaning eastward facing stretch. And the idea is to counterpose from all that core work going forward to open up your chest. You can get that in a seated pose. The full version of the pose is to lift up into a wedge, also known as canal pose. Or you can kind of split the difference by bending your knees and moving up into a tabletop. After 3 or 4 breaths there, come back down for boat pose. And you can do this either with your hands behind your knees or not, but we're going to move into Ardha Navasana, or half boat. Okay, so take it forward. Bring it back. And then counter. Either just sitting, legs straight, hips lifted, or knees bent and hips lifted. So I want to do some hip openers, and there's a couple we can choose from. As always, in every pose, if we find that sweet spot between effort and ease in every one of the poses, we get into that current of energy and it just feels like we're soaring. We have more energy after practice than we did when we started. First hip opener is just a seated figure 4. Feels great, okay? If I like this but want to take it just a little bit more intense, I'll stack right knee on top of left ankle, right ankle on top of left knee. So my shins are stacked like this, feet are flexed. If I'd rather take a little bit more passive approach, I'll just lie down on my back and do the figure 4 stretch. Okay, so even if you're on your back, you can pick your feet up and we'll just sort of neutralize the pose with a little bit of kind of pedaling and then switch sides. Either you're in your seated figure 4 position, right? Or this classic Agni Stambhasana, which means fire log pose, where you stack the logs of your shins, apparently, keeping the toes flexed. Also, if you like the idea of the pose, but this top knee doesn't quite reach the ankle, you can just bring your knees a little wider. And with your thigh bones a little wider, that gives you a little bit more wherewithal to be able to stack the shins a little more comfortably. Good. Ease your way back out of this thing. And we're going to come to a lying down on our belly position. So you can flip over, lie down on your belly, slide your hands so your fingertips are on the floor, kind of like you're going to do like Bruce Lee push-ups or something, you know. You're going to roll your shoulders back and hug elbows into the side. So we're really activating these middle trapezius muscles and our lats muscles to open up our chest. You want your head to be pretty neutral, and you're going to inhale using as minimal effort in your arms as possible to roll up into a cobra pose. And then as you exhale, lower back down, belly, chest, chin to the mat. Start with your shoulders. Peel shoulder blades together. Let that pull your chest up off the ground. And then exhale, lower back down, belly, chest, chin. Back and forth. Now this next go around, we're going to hold the pose, and you can choose to either keep this with the fingertips on the floor or come up into the pose and then lift your fingertips off the floor. You might even choose to bring the tops of your feet off the floor. Okay, and we might even move into this full Shalambhasana, or locust pose by interlacing fingers. Yeah. You can kind of do a super woman version of this pose too. Just the hands going back. Good. And then release, rest your forehead on your wrists, and just kind of shake your hips side to side. Okay, same thing. Now, you're either going to do that variation of cobra pose, so fingertips on the floor, Shalambhasana take 2. So we got this, or this time let's do Dhanurasana or bow pose. As you reach back and grab your feet. Flex your toes back toward the wall behind you. Yeah. And try to keep your knees kind of parallel with each other. Yeah. Using your strong legs, the quads, to kind of open up your chest. Yeah, everyone. Perfect. Release when the love is gone. Forehead on your wrists. Good. Now come back up to hands and knees pose. And send your left wrist between right wrist and knee into a thread the needle pose. Good. And as you're in this pose, whatever hip you are reaching in that direction, that same hip is going to pull slightly down toward the floor. That shoulder is going to pull back. So your hand at the elbow that's bent, the palm that's on the floor is pushing down. Or like what Lisa's doing, you can also wrap your right hand behind you and grab hold of the inside of the back thigh. Yeah, come back to hands and knees pose. Before you do the other side, just do a couple of figure eights around in the hips. And thread the needle. So right hand goes down between left wrist and knee. Good. Good. Ease your way out of this thing when you feel like both sides have been complete. Come back to hands and knees. And then I want to set up for the version of inversion or upside down pose that kind of suits you the best today. Okay, so the easiest inversion, one that I like perhaps the best, is simply a legs up the wall pose. And so you could move your mat to a wall to appreciate this. You might even use the wall as a wall supported shoulder stand, right? Maybe you are practicing handstands, right? Kick up handstands. And so you start in a downward facing dog and look up to the hands and practice some of these donkey kicks as you practice coming straight up and down into a handstand. Okay? So, and those you could do also against the wall. Whichever version of inversion you're choosing, make sure that your breath is integral to the process. Each inhale and exhale is part of every pose. And like, when just like B.B. King says, when the thrill is gone, like it's time to move on. I'm going to create a whole blues and yoga like camp or festival where it'll be like all blues face all day long, all yoga, all blues music. It'll be amazing. Now, if you're doing legs up the wall and you are actually at the wall, you can actually stay exactly where you are because we can do a lot of this next sort of finishing sequence right there at the wall. So, Meg, I'm going to have you stay right there. What you're going to do is you're going to, from here, if you're in come to a seated position unless you're right at the wall, we're going to do a wide-legged straddle. Okay, so if you're against the wall, just open your legs into a wide-legged straddle against the wall. Otherwise, legs come up. Legs come out. You come up to a seated pose, legs wide. This is called Upavista Konasana. And I like what you've done, turning sideways to get a little cushion underneath the heels. And then reach forward and grab hold of your big toes or reach in the direction of your big toes. Right? Short arms, long legs, it might mean you just hold on to your calf muscles, right? Deep breaths. Now, when you've had, 5 or 6, maybe 7 long breaths here in this pose, Bring it back upright and set the soles of the feet together with the knees wide into Baddha Konasana. And this is still a great pose to do against the wall. Now, if you're against the wall, then just pull your knees together, drop both knees to your left, look past your right in a twist. If you're in a seated pose, just come upright, come to a comfortable cross-legged position, and then twist to the right. Put your left hand on your right knee, place your right hand behind you, and just gently twist. Now I'll kind of do a counter twist. My trunk is twisting toward the right, but I'm looking back to the left. And then tilt the head back a little bit. So your head is doing the opposite thing your trunk is doing. Yeah, that's it. And what I'm noticing is really nice. The spine is straight up and down. That's perfect. You create the axis and twist directly around that axis. Switch directions, whether on the floor, whether in the seated position, upright seated position. Now, if you are against the wall, you may want to, we're going to do a meditation, and so you could either choose to roll over and come to a seated position or just go legs up the wall. Either one's going to be great. Before we move into our final relaxation pose, Shavasana, I want to do a brief meditation, and this will kind of hone us into our Shavasana. So the mind expends energy just by thinking. And the mind is also programmed to be thinking all the time. So there's like this constant like energy drain like coming out. You know, when you've taken like a 4-hour test or something like that, or you've been working really hard on some mental project all day long, you haven't burned a lot of calories per se, but you just feel like exhausted. Sort of evidence of the idea that prana, this life force energy, we're using it even for our thoughts. So our thoughts, our brains are kind of hardwired to kind of jump on some hamster wheel and just start to like, you know, go and go and go. So we can actually use that to our benefit. What happens is this life force energy, this prana goes and it gets like split into all these different directions, and we're thinking about work and then home and this other thing, and it's very exhausting. So if we can use the fact that our energy and our thoughts are going to be a constant stream, rather than splitting them off to all these divergent streams, focus them into something simple and singular. So we're going to focus on what I call the countdown meditation. It's a super simple meditation that is designed to bring the monkey mind into focus into something just direct. And we're going to choose a number. I'm going to suggest maybe the number 30. And you're going to follow your breath. You could use Ujjayi breath or just let your breath go natural. But as you exhale in your mind, you're going to think the number 30. And as you inhale, you're going to think the number 29. Exhale 28. Inhale 27, you know, and we're going to count backwards because you have to keep a little bit of consciousness to count backwards. It's just a little bit more difficult to count backwards than it is to count forward, right? And in so doing, there's going to be 2 caveats. Number 1, if you lose your count, it's no big deal. Happens to everybody. You just start back at 30, okay? The other thing, if you get to 0, no big deal. Happens to everybody. You just get to start back at 30, right? So there's no achievement here. And for some reasons, for that reason, you could start at some impossible number like 1,276, right? And just because you know you're not getting anywhere through the process, just keep the focus and keep coming back, okay? So close your eyes, place your palms down on your knees, stay upright. Ujjayi breath or not, that's totally up to you, but choose a number, maybe start with 30, and as you exhale, think the number 30. Inhale, think 29. And exhale, 28. Now keep going and count your own breaths. If ever you lose your count, just start back over. It's no big deal. If you lose your count, it's no big deal. It happens to everybody. Just come back. If ever you get to 0, again, there's no achievement, so unfortunately you do not get a gold star. What you do get is to start back over at 30. So if you're to practice at home, I might suggest setting a timer for 5 minutes or something, or however long you wanted to meditate. And just keep running through the numbers until it dings, right? No accomplishment. But in lieu of Shavasana, if you're really into this thing, you could stay and do this instead of Shavasana. Otherwise, let's abandon the countdown meditation and let's come to our Shavasana, our relaxation period, where we get a chance to let everything go. By the way, that countdown meditation is really awesome for if you're having trouble sleeping and you find yourself like just cycling thoughts in your head over and over again. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll count down from 200 in French in multiples of 3, right? Which sounds pretty outrageous, but I have to focus so hard on that no sooner do I get to song 70 and I'm like totally song locked. So now you start to settle in Shavasana, take a moment, maybe send a breath out your mouth, let there be total ease here. There's nothing else to do. This is just about listening. So, brought my clarinet. I'm going to play a little music, and just listen. Just notice what happens. Sometimes the music may evoke for you a color, an emotion, a memory. Just kind of go with whatever arises for you. Take a couple deep breaths into your belly. Move your fingers and toes a little bit. And take your time as you roll over to one side and then come back upright to a seated position. When you come upright, either hands rest at your knees or hands together at your heart. Take a quick moment and do a little inventory, head to toe, inside and out, kind of ascertain what's happened to you through the course of your practice tonight. And then if you want to join me, we'll chant Om to finish your practice. You're always welcome to listen. Let's inhale. Really great practice, everybody. Thank you so much. Namaste.